Okay.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I have never done that.
But I think I'm gonna change us to look like this. Oh, this is way better. Okay. Okay. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Today I'm being joined by the beautiful Avani, who is a client and friend, and we are going to be talking about a couple of things, just her journey and her growth in the Metamorphosis and the Quantum Accelerator, and then also her work, which is incredibly powerful, and I'm sure everyone needs and wants to know about it. Yeah, so Avni, can you just let's just dive right in and maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about just a little introduction and then kind of like where you were at and what made you make the decision to do the Metamorphosis and then the Quantum Accelerator.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So I am a intuitive healer. I do theta healing and sound healing, and I'm a sensuality coach. So I help women connect with their bodies. That is really the portal for all the magic. So we'll talk more about that. But where I was, so I joined, I did your birth story course first, right? And I was 1 month postpartum after my first child's birth. And that was like a year-ish ago, a little less than a year. And oh my God, I was so depleted. And I think that's where it all sort of started for me. And I think my biggest concern, and you posted something about this today, is like, oh, am I traumatizing my kids? And like, my biggest concern has been similar to that because, you know, I've been doing self growth and development for like over 13 years. And I'm like, wow, so much of this is from my childhood. And I want to make sure I don't do that to my kid. So I need to go in deeper. And so when you posted about the birth story, I was like, oh, this is perfect because that's where I was. And then from there, Metamorphosis, because a lot of my mom, dad, sibling stuff was coming up. And I literally saw those three things as your first three modules. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I love Alyse's energy. And so why not? And yeah. And what it's been like is actually way more than I thought I was signing up for, which is awesome, right? Because I was like, oh, yeah, like mom, dad, siblings, But the power of breath work, I had never, ever experienced that before. And I really appreciated how you were like very kind of like, it's okay if you can't do the breath work, just listen to it. And I did that for a few times in the beginning and then kind of really got the value of it. And I definitely started to shift. And like if I were to just to highlight the top things, it's like breaking my codependencies with my mom, my dad, my sister. That was the latest one. My
That was a good
husband. Sorry.
I said that was a good one. The one with your
Oh, good.
sister.
Yeah, I didn't it literally felt like it came out of nowhere. And it's been there my whole life, right? So you like kind of just don't see it sometimes until like a mentor will like kind of point it to you as like, oh, this is not an accident that it's happening, this is real. And I think that was like amazing because I was like, I've always been so like, this is how it is with my sister, like how could it be any different? And so and then, along the way, all these amazing, cool things happened. Uh, we bought our home, our new home last year. But even more than that, I think it's like I quit my job and I went full time into my business, which is like I'd been doing it part time, got a lot of success, and like pulling that plug of security, right? Which like bringing it all back to me was huge.
Yeah, that was huge.
So, yeah.
That's usually that's one of my favorite side effects of the Metamorphosis for people. Even people who, not to say if you are in there and you have a full time job and you want to keep it that you'll leave, but if you have a full time job and you don't want to keep it, or you don't know that you don't want to keep it, you'll realize and you'll quit it usually in the metamorphosis. It's like such a fun side effect that I never thought was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's about coming into alignment into what's there, and I remember you saying to me, like, this is what you're here for. Like, why would you mess with it? And I actually literally sent that message to a potential client today. I was like, this is what you're here for. Like, why are you messing with it? And like all you're doing is kicking the can down. How long are you going to keep doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, what do you feel like now? Because I know we've kind of been working together now for like a year. So what do you feel like the biggest changes that you've experienced, like from in that year, like then versus how you feel now?
Yeah. Well, so first thing was like I needed my fill, right? Like after birth. Um, and I think people underestimate how much fill we need, definitely after birth, but in general in life,
Mhm.
we're so emptied out from like what everybody expects from us. And so definitely got my fill basically right away, right? And my postpartum was freaking amazing. Like when I share with people that like my son, he sleeps for 12 hours and it's like, what? And I found out that it's like not an accident, right? It's like a series of choices that I made following my intuition. So that's one of the huge side effects. I don't even know if it's main effect, side effect.
The effects.
It's like honing in on my intuition, right? Like we made so many crazy decisions that I would like not expect to have made, like buying a house in Mexico. Like we would have never done that, right? But it was like an intuitive hit. This is it. You got to go for it, that kind of a thing. And we did. We're so excited about that.
I know. It's like so freaking cool. I share that with everyone. I'm like, Avani bought her dream home in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. The other day we went to a party and literally the entire party, I was like, whenever I would look around, either me or my husband are sharing pictures on our phone of our home. And we're like, anyway,
So exciting.
it's so cool. Yeah. So for me, so it's definitely, and I launched my program in that time and I'm relaunching it now. And I launched a new program that literally downloaded for me in a breathwork session, which is like, what? Like it was so clear. I got up from the breathwork and I just literally typed it out, including the who it is, what it is, everything came through, right? So this is sort of going back to like when you're connected, when you're in alignment, all this magic starts to happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
yeah.
so true. And I find that for me too, like with when I do breath work, especially now, all I'm getting is like creative inspiration, right? Like I'm either getting like crazy creative inspiration of like ideas and things I want to do, or I'm just feeling like this overwhelming feeling of gratitude where I'm like crying from gratitude. But like I feel like, in the beginning with the breath work, obviously, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, it is more of like moving through some of the emotional stuff and moving through some of the deeper like traumas that we've all experienced. But it's not like terrible. And maybe you can speak to that a little bit. Cause I know you've mentioned before, like, I don't know how this breath work is working, but it's working.
Yeah. It was definitely like the first couple times was like, what? Did it even work?
Yeah.
Like, is that, I don't even think I could sit through it, right? Like the whole 30 minutes. Like I would like wake up in like 5, 10, 15, 20. And that's like, even the work that I do in my program, similar to that, right? Like we're learning a new muscle and a new skill in a way, right? So allowing that grace for yourself to kind of mess it up. And I was so grateful that it was a 6-month container. So I was like, by the time like the 4th, 5th month was like, oh, okay, at least just tell me which breath work now.
Yeah.
And that's why I run my program in a container, because there's so much that happens over time when we like retrained ourselves to do new things
Yeah.
versus the same old repetitive patterns of like, well, I'm not good enough and this is never going to work out. And do I really have what it takes to step out of my comfort zone? And can I really be an entrepreneur? And what will all these people think? And it's like, yes,
I
all
think
that.
you said like all of the main things that like everybody thinks. You just like nailed it. It's just like all of it. Like that's basically the gist of all of it.
Yep. And I think I cycle through that on a daily basis.
Right. But like, I feel like, and I think this is such a great point that you're bringing up, because it's not, and I always say to people, it's not that we're just like completely getting rid of all that stuff, right? Like that stuff is part of the human experience. It's just how we navigate it now. So like, can you speak to too, like, you know, a year ago versus now, like how do you navigate that stuff when it comes up? Because that's what you're really learning in the metamorphosis.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's all about a practice, really. Like, it's like, okay, what practice is going to support me right now?
Yeah.
Right? Is it energy work? Is it breath work? So that's what I've learned from you. And like from my previous sort of trainings, I've learned, I'm actually now also newly learning self pleasure as a
Mhm.
practice. That's something I now am incorporating into my work. But, you know, before for me, it was this orgasmic healing practice, right? So, like, which practice, like, it's kind of like a tool belt, and I
Yeah.
get to pick from that. And it literally comes down to which practice. There's no like, oh, I wish it wasn't there, and let me process it. And even the processing, we need practice for that, right? Um,
And
like,
also, I think the other thing too is just like being able to have the levity to notice that it's happening and not just getting like wrapped up in it or believing it or getting like pulled into that tidal wave of energy where you actually believe that all of those things are true. You're now just like, oh, this thing is happening again. Which tool am I going to use for my tool belt to move through it versus like feeling like for 2 or 3 days that you're not good enough. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, and you asked the question of like what's changed. Like for me, that time has gone down, right? Like honestly, 2 or 3 days used to be my norm back in the day, which is not most people's norm, right? Like when I started my journey, it was months and years, you know.
Yeah.
So if that's how much time it's taking, you definitely don't need to do that. But now it's a matter of honestly hours, or not even hours. Like
Yeah.
this morning, my husband, and this is like part of the, you know, codependency that we're breaking, like he's going through a launch. And so he's going through his motions. And usually he would throw energy and I would get totally taken out by that. Right. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I get it. I get you're upset. I get where you're at. And I don't have to take that on. And I literally pumped out like 4 pages of writing that I needed to do to like 20 minutes later, right? Or like 20 minutes later, I was starting, and 2 hours later, I was done
Mhm.
versus like staying in it for days, right? Like we're wasting precious time, like precious, precious time.
Yeah, totally. And also like just having the awareness of like, first of all, I love that you brought up about your husband, because one of the things that happens is another side effect in the program, which I'm sure you can speak to, is how your relationships change, right? And you don't even really have to do anything. Like for example, you know, when I talk about the mother wound, people will be like, "Oh, well, I don't talk to my mom, or I don't think I can ever resolve anything with my mom." And it's like you can completely heal your relationship with your mom and never speak once to your mom about it. Like it's just all about the energy within yourself. So the
Oh,
fact that you were able to like, and this is something we talk about all the time, right? Is like, how can your husband is having his experience, and how can you do the energy work on yourself so you're not taking on his energy, and then be able to stay in your own energy and still be in your purpose and be aligned with yourself and allow him to have that experience. And it's, you're still supporting him, but you don't have to take that on. And I think that's such a paradigm shift. And one of the biggest things that like I want people to come away from this understanding is that we are not required to be responsible for other people's energy, be responsible for other people's emotions, but that's what we were taught. So that's such a huge, huge paradigm shift for you. So I love that so much.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything else you want to share about your experience? And then we can shift into, because I know I want you to talk about your work as well, which has skyrocketed during this experience too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can talk about manifestation.
You.
Are you there?
Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, there you are. My internet is being so weird today. Okay. Go ahead.
Cool. I was just looking. Okay, so the thing I actually want to talk about was the topic that we put up, right? And that will lead into also me talking about why I do what I do, which is manifestation, right? The thing that I just talked about, which was we're wasting precious time kind of being stuck in these patterns, right? And so everything that I named, we have a limited time. I mean, time is not limited. I mean, time is unlimited, and we have time now.
It's a commodity. It's a resource.
Totally. So we have that available right now, and we're wasting precious time kind of stuck in patterns that are really from the past. They don't need to have a hold on us, right? And when we start to release and come into full alignment in with who we really are, right? On a soul level, on a body level, that's when the magic happens. So I wanted to put that in as I was thinking about one thing I definitely want to share is for people to how manifestation works. It's definitely not linear, right? It doesn't need to be linear for sure, right?
Not linear.
Yeah. And the way it becomes not linear is when you're kind of releasing the baggage that's not really yours. And so the other part about manifestation for me is I'm not saying there's no action, but there's a lot around the energy that we hold. And to me, the way I got introduced to it 5-7 years ago or so at this point, was the feminine work, right? Which is the feminine energy and coming into the sort of the flow and things like that. That's where the manifestation comes from. And I was uber masculine in a way, and I'm not putting it down at all in any way, right? We need the action, the support, the provider, but I was actually really just trained to be that way. I grew up in India
to some degree, right? Because the world works that way. So
yeah, and we're trained to produce and contribute and kind of so. But that doesn't necessarily give us the satisfaction that we're looking for, right? And sometimes we just get in this space of doing, and forgetting who we are on a body level, on a being level. And so that's really what the feminine is. A first question that people come to me is what is the feminine? It's it's your flow, it's your inspiration, it's your connection with whole of yourself, not just the part that's doing things, right? Which is generally speaking the mind. Right.
Yeah.
So going below and above the mind, right? So connecting with the spirit realm, connecting with our bodies, our sensual energy, and kind of creating from there. So that's the premise of the work that I do and how I got introduced to it. And to me, that's really been powerful. We have pulled in so much more money than my corporate job ever did and ever would give me using these quantum manifestation techniques, right? And the more and more in alignment that I keep coming into, that's when it starts to work, right? So when you said to me, hey, this is what you're really meant for, as scary as it was, right? Because it's going totally against the programming. I still get questions from my family are you sure about this? And I'm yes, 6 months into this, I am absolutely sure that's what I'm doing, right? And so where was I? Yeah.
Oh, just about like how,
Alignment.
yeah, go ahead.
Alignment. Sorry. Sorry, this happens to me a lot. I'm like, oh, where was I? Yeah, so the alignment with my true desires, right? So that's part of the work that I like help women uncover, like, what is it that you actually want, right? Like, we say things like, oh, I want that next promotion. But I'm like, really? Do you really want that next promotion? Right. And then when you come into your true desire, it's like, no, actually, what I really desire is like, I want a family or I want a man. And so, um, and the reason why you wouldn't even say you want a man is or a family is like because you've been so hurt and you're carrying all this baggage.
Right. And also, like, I think we touched on this a little bit today on our Quantum Accelerator call about how we've been like so programmed to like sacrifice our own needs and our own wants for other people and just do what other people want, that most of us are incredibly disconnected from our desires and our needs and our wants. And also we've also kind of been programmed to believe that desire is kind of like this frivolous thing, like this thing that you should do maybe when you have time on the weekend or something. And actually desire is like your compass. That's like your connection to spirit or your higher self showing you like, go here, go this way, like this way, like that's what your desires are.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I love that you said that about it's something to be done later in life. Like first, let me get to this point, and then I just made a post about that today, or I'm about to. I wrote it today. Like, let me get to this point, then I will let myself get that vacation. Then I will let myself go do the, like the part-time job so I can have time with my kids, right? It just, and what's needed is to flip it on its head. Like if you really let your body, your desire guide you, it's a whole different outcome.
Yeah.
Than yeah.
It's a whole different outcome. So like, do you want to talk a little bit about like how you actually work with this, like in your program and like what that entails?
Yes. Yes. So one of the things I do is I do inquiry, okay, which is like asking yourself a question and staying in the question. We are so designed to just keep on answering and giving the answer, and we were rewarded for that, right? So again, we're flipping that on its head. And I do sound healing, theta healing to once we've illuminated those beliefs that are really running the show, we actually release them. And once we release them, that's when the magic happens because it's a clear space and we put like new beliefs on, right? Like I just did a healing today and it was like releasing this, I need to do hard work to make money. And right? Just have to breathe into that one.
Wait, can I just ask you too, can you explain what theta healing is too? Because I actually don't know exactly what it is, and maybe other people don't either.
Okay, perfect. Great. I'm glad you asked the question. So theta is a state in the brain where we are like relaxed to the point where you can actually access your subconscious brain. So we think we're doing things from conscious part of our brain, which is like not true. We're doing things from like some of these subconscious beliefs, right? We could be saying good conscious things, but like, the subconscious is like, no, you need to work hard, or you cannot have so much money. And then, okay, but because I cannot have so much money, I like end up with like extra bills to pay, right? Because your subconscious will create that. Right. So the theta state is the state right before we go to bed. So right as you're not right before you go to bed, right before you're actually falling asleep.
Yeah.
Right. So that's subconscious. So we tap into that and through either meditation or sound healing. So the vibration of the bowls, crystal bowls will do that. Right. So that's like one of my main methods. It's not the only method, one of my main methods that I do energy work from. And Okay, so that answers the question.
Yeah, so you're basically working within the subconscious, like that state right before you fall asleep, which we all kind of know is like when you're the most suggestible too, right? Like that's always why I always tell people to listen to the breathwork sessions like right before they go to sleep or right before they wake up, because it's like you're in that state where your conscious mind hasn't come online yet and you're just highly suggestible to programming and to new energies. So like why not utilize that with like putting in the kind of thoughts you and belief systems you want to have that contribute to your highest timeline.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Yeah. We programmed I'm a badass money magnet, right? That's a belief I want to be living with. Like I don't want to be living with like I have to hustle all the time. And the impact is huge. When I do my sessions, like people are like, I mean, I've had a client literally 5 minutes after we got off the call, she goes, "Oh my God, I have a check for $2,800 in my mailbox that like I was not expecting."
Yeah, I love that stuff. Isn't that the best? I love when you like do energy work and clear stuff, and then like all of a sudden it's like, oh, this thing happened. It's the best.
Yeah. Or like a situation now is like gone. Like you
Right.
had a thing and you had to deal with it and you've been strategizing, right? Which is what I call the kind of the doing, the pushing, the hustling. And then it's like, oh, that thing is not like a thing anymore. It just kind of took care of itself.
Yeah, and also like I feel like it becomes a kind of thing where people forget about it, and I'll have to be like, remember you were like really upset about this thing, and they're like, what? And I'm like, remember? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I think that is the hardest part of
Yeah.
being an energy healer. I'm sure you relate to this
Yeah.
one as well, because people are like, oh, hasn't it always been this way? And it's like,
Yeah, you're like, no.
That's not how it was.
I
You
know.
were really upset about it. Really? I don't think so.
That's so funny. So, okay, so you sound healing, theta healing, and then like and then is it like so it's a longer container, right?
Correct. Because I'm also doing other embodiment practices, right? So a lot of the things that I earlier mentioned, I'm going to say it again. It's like the worthiness, like, am I really worth it? Do I really deserve it? And then the other piece is pleasure, right? So I'll bring in a lot of pleasure practices, self pleasure being one of them, orgasmic healing that I do, that practice being another one. And I teach about it.
I love that.
I know it's so so good. Like it's like, and I was the girl who was like, I still get people in my containers who are like, pussy. Like I would not say that word. I was like, no, you cannot talk about that. That's just not cool. And now it's like all about that in my house, right? So anyways, we do that. And then another piece, like I'll bring in human design for you to get like a full picture of who you are. And the other piece is sisterhood, right? Like bringing in a group of women who are up to some big shifts in their life, right? And so
important. So important. Like that's the thing that I say with the Metamorphosis, or with all my programs. Like part of the reason why everyone gets the shifts that they do is because of the community support. Like that is such an important factor in your growth. Such an important factor. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah, and because we're so limited even by our own thinking that you don't even realize something is like, you'll be in a session and like somebody will say something and you're like, oh, I have that one too.
Yeah.
Like that. So
exactly.
And also like, when you forget who you are, other people who've now witnessed your journey will remind you of like, oh, this is you. Remember you said you were working on that? How's that thing going? So
exactly. Well, that's amazing. So can you let people know how they can like find you and get in touch with you so that they can find out more info and sign up?
Yes. I think the best way is DM me and I'll put a link in after this. I am open where the next round is going to open in September. And right now I have like a super early bird going on. So, and there's like $1,500.
I love a good early bird.
Right? Totally. one other thing I would just want to say, like, why would you want to do this program, right? Like, if you are done with the hustling, right? And like, if you are done with like how things are going, you're ready for a change, then that's when you're ready for a change, right? And when you're ready for the change, like, I would not delay, right? Like, if you have questions, if you have concerns, one of the biggest concerns people have is like, well, what if my partner doesn't like me? Or what if I want to break up with them or something like that, right? And it's like, but do you really want to do that? Then maybe this is the right thing for you. Right? And most
always
of the time,
say too for people like that, it's either going to be like the outcome is always going to work out best for you, because it's either going to be that because your energy shifts, their energy shifts, and they start to meet you where you're at, which is amazing, or it's no longer going to be in alignment and they're just going to naturally fall away. And then it's going to open up space for an aligned person to come in. So either way, when you shift your energy, like the perfect thing happens and you're going to be happy either way.
yeah, totally. Perfectly. Yes. Most of the times I've found it's like not even true that you end up like people elevate because people want to elevate. Right. And so, like you coming into your love and your softness is going to help. What is that? The rising tide rises everybody. Right. And so,
it's so true. That's so
so
true.
the best way is to DM me. I will drop a link to also book a call with me if you want to answer questions. But yeah.
Perfect. That sounds so good. And I know that people have gotten such powerful results from your work. And I think that also it's just like the energy that you hold too. And I know this is true for me too. And I know it's true for you that like there's a intangible, unexplainable quality to your work. So it's just for like, if you know that you're drawn to it, then just trust that, because just like the energy that you hold is going to create shifts for people. So it's important just to trust that, because some of what is going on is happening in the other realms that we can't really even explain. So
yeah, that's how I knew. I was like, oh, I want to work with Alyse. Like it was like not even a conscious decision, or you just know it.
Yeah, you're just like drawn. That's what happens to me too. Everybody I've worked with, I don't really think about it. I just know. And I'm like, oh yes, that works. So it's so important to trust that. And thank you, Pamela, for all of your awesome comments. And thank you so much, Avani. I'm really excited about your launch and to see who comes in this round and to see how powerful it's going to be. So thank you for sharing all of that. Really excited about.
Sorry.
Oh, were you looking on? I know there's like a delay. So thank you. Make sure you like put in the comments where everybody can find you and your Instagram and everything so they can follow you. And also, if you guys have any questions about any of my programs, reach out. Also, I have a really quick little announcement to make. This is very, very new. So it hasn't even fully dropped in yet, but I just want to say it here. I'm launching a new 30-day program called Quantum Magnetism, which is all about stepping into your fullest magnetism to attract all of the perfect clients, people, money, and situations into your life that are aligned with your highest timeline. It's going to start at the end of August. It's 30 days. And early bird pricing is going to be $777, and there's going to be a payment plan. So, and that's all I've gotten so far. I know it's going to be about magnetism and like igniting your magnetism. So if you're interested, reach out to me and we'll get you a link to sign up, and I'll be posting more about it also soon.
That's really fun.
I know. I'm excited about it. It's just going to be like a little like burst of energy to push you forward. So so thank you so much, Avani, for being here. And I'm sure everyone is going to want to follow your work. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.